So the market environment keeps on changing. I think this tells it a bit all. We live in a kind of a constant uncertainty. We have all these geopolitics, we have terrorism, we have wars and conflicts, we have tariff days in the US now, we have AI disruption, we have a debt crisis, we have a climate crisis, we have shifting of trade lanes, we have a reshaping of the world order, we have a lack of global leadership to some degree, we have a decline of the West, we have a rise of the global South. I always go back to my Chinese friends. They have a very nice character here, which is Wei Ji, which you see in the middle of the slide. And Wei Ji comes from Wei Shen is dangerous, and Ji comes from Chi Hui is opportunity. So in every crisis, okay, in every Wei Ji, there's a bit of both. There's a dangerous element, but there is also room for opportunity. And I think this is what we need to think about, not only dark and gloomy, but also about the opportunities that are there. Of course, those times are not easy. We have in Italy last year during the conference already mentioned this quote from an Italian philosopher of the time. When the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born, especially in terms of world order, geopolitics at the moment, okay, it's the time of the monsters. A lot of things are happening that are unpredictable. We get into a kind of a deal-based world, and that is not easy, but change also always is opportunity for new things. So let's go look a bit at 2024. We had a new normal in shipping, which was very disruptive. Supply and demand was more or less shaken over by terrorist attacks on vessels in the Red Sea. Carriers started deviating, which changed the whole supply and demand situation. On the other hand, it saved their backs because a lot of capacity, around 10% to 11% of global capacity, got absorbed thanks to the deviations via the Cape of Good Hope. That was also aided by a very strong growth in terms of the market. We had 6.2% volume growth, something nobody actually projected. Usual projections at the beginning of the year were around 3%, then got up to 5%, and then we ended up with 6.2% in global container trade. A lot of that probably also front loading for what came after under the Trump administration and potential tariffs. 2025 is up to a different start. Q1 was still very strong. You see here some slides a bit on the global volume development. We still had 4.2% growth in the container market in general. So that is quite still a lot. Rates also held up pretty well. So we're closing Q1 at higher rates than last year, which is very good for carriers. And I've stolen these slides from Hapag-Lloyd's quarterly report. They're based on CTS data, so they give you a bit of an overview. But they also show the dependence of global trade on the US. So container volumes in 2024, 22% of those volumes had something to do with the US. And whatever the US does now in terms of tariffs will, of course, not stop global trade. That will not end, but certain things might change. Behaviors might change. Volumes might change. Something might go through other countries. It depends all on how these trade deals will work out. But just that you get a bit of feeling for the global impact of this, which is actually really significant. Then, of course, we have the Suez opening, which is uncertain, and I come to that in a moment. We have also capacity that keeps growing. The order book is still huge. This is still the basis of 31st of March this year, what the order book looks like, which you see in the center of the slide. And the situation has not become better. There is still new vessels being ordered all the time. A bit lower down, you see the scheduled deliveries for this year, which is still a lot of capacity coming on board. And you see on the left side the supply and demand balance, what it looks like at the moment, and growth is still there. And at the moment, no carriers have seriously started scrapping old ships because a lot of people burned their fingers when they were scrapping in 2019, and then came the big COVID boom, and they had just destroyed ships that could still be earning a fortune. So that market is changing. But also inflation is returning. GDP forecasts don't look that impressive at the moment, especially for the old world, let's say Europe. We just had the latest numbers from Germany yesterday, where even the own German forecasters now forecast the country at 0% growth for the third year in a row. even if it should go back the year after to 1%, if that's the locomotive of the European Union, it's a very poor performance. So there is some changes, of course. Southeast Asia, India still growing very fast. China, even at its scale, still growing. And we have, I was just back from South America, very good indicators there for growth. So there are markets that are growing and that have potential, and global growth will also still grow. But the impact of those tariffs will be there. The question is still how much it will be. I have shared a few numbers here with you on the left, which more or less indicate what a 10% tariff will do to trade. We don't know where the final numbers will end up. So in general, it's very hard to predict the market. Of course, we're still subject to supply and demand, but there are a lot of black swan events. There are a lot of things that carriers can influence now. If almost 50% is controlled by 3 parties, they can have a big impact. They decide blanking of sailings, rates change, capacity changes. They decide to go into scrapping, or they decide to withhold some capacity. It impacts the markets, and they can play that very fast. We've especially seen that now with the first blankings from MSC, which has reacted very quickly and which commands more than 20% of global capacity. If some of the other carriers follow, that has an impact instantly. And then lastly, of course, the impact of the Red Sea. The Houthis have more or less agreed to a ceasefire with President Trump. The issue is they are still attacking Israel, so rockets are still flying over the Red Sea, so nobody really knows how safe that is. Insurance premiums are still up. The canal is trying to incentivize carriers to go back, but of course carriers have no interest, because if they go back, there will be even more overcapacity in the market and rates will drop even further, which will impact their business a lot. So we will see how that pans out. We at the moment do not foresee a return to the Red Sea during this year. Probably towards end of the year. Even so, this week was another CMA vessel that was behind schedule, and that will take the Suez route. So we'll see what is happening. And please also remind that there are other black swan events that can still come. We have these geopolitical conflicts, we have strikes, we have wars going on, we have cyber attacks, pandemics, anything can happen. So I think this is something that we have learned in COVID, that we need to be able to adapt to whatever situation there is. So all the while in that situation, simple products face tough competition. Price transparency is a given. So many electric tools out there. It used to be based on checking websites. Now it's based on APIs, and in a not too far future, everybody will have their AI agent to check prices from different sources. So transparency is there. We also have carriers going aggressively into direct customers, targeting BCOs and actually competing with freight forwarders, which doesn't make their life easier. And I come back to that. Reselling with the margins, or just buying something for 100 and selling it for 120 has become really hard. So these challenges are no doubt there.